Good day, everyone. Good day. And welcome to our very first monthly training session. We are aiming to do this training every last Friday of the month. We also have some great topics lined up. Bookmark our training page to make sure you get all our future updates. So in today's session, it is titled Password Isn't a Password, Password Manager, quite a catchy one. We have our host, our favorite host, Daniel Watson, Director at Vertech IT Services, as well as Mina Fahmy, a Service Desk Analyst and a Subject Matter Expert on Passportal from Vertech as well. Before I hand over, just a few important notes. A recorded version of this training session will be available on our training page, which can be accessed via our main web page as well at vertech.co.nz. And then should you have any questions, please post them in the chat and we'll attend to those at the end. And then you can also get a list of our upcoming topics on our registration page as well. Okay, so over to Daniel.
Great stuff. Cheers, Bianca. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly do a bit of a foreword before Mina gets into the meat of this session. Ideally, that we would all be having this in the same room and would be having a good lunch as well, an opportunity to mingle. Hopefully next month, the next topic will be able to do that. But, okay, talking about password security, the reason why we have a password management tool comes down to a few different things which are worth mentioning, okay? Everything we do with regards to cybersecurity for our clients has been a result of generally finding a gap in our coverage and support and protections for our existing client base, or when new clients have come to us because they've suffered some kind of catastrophe. The main threats that we're seeing out there right now that relate to password security is business email compromise attacks. That's where the bad guys, the cyber criminals, have got into people's mail accounts and they're using them to either deliver more spam and malware to third parties through their contact list, knowing that their mail account, being a trusted mailbox, will get through people's spam filters. And secondly, the more dangerous one is once they've gained access to a business's mailboxes, that they can use the implied trust in there to send messages within the organisation, usually leading towards a redirection of funds out of the bank account. Easiest way to do that, you don't have to hack the bank, hack the person. If I send a message to Bianca saying, go out and buy me a stack load of iTunes vouchers in the right kind of voice, she may actually go out and do that, right? It may not be me, right? That may or may not be a real world example. So other things out there is password harvesting. This is becoming quite common, is that somebody will get an email, will have a link that says, hey, the documents for the transaction that I'm trying to get done, it's, and it could be anything relevant to your business, it might be a land transaction or a supply purchase, are available via this Dropbox link. All right, people are used to getting those kind of links. As long as the landing page looks like it could be Dropbox, people will tend to just chuck in their email address and password, right? And nothing happens. And they just pay it no mind and on they go off their day. But the end result is that person now has your work email address and password, because on a password hygiene perspective, most people tend to just remember maybe one or two passwords that they use everywhere, right? And given the chance, they'll make the work password the same as the password they use for, I don't know, the booking system at their community centre or what have you. And on and on and on it goes, right? It'll be the same password they used for their Gmail account, for their extra account, everything that they've ever logged into, it all is the same. Or a slight variation, and people don't get particularly clever with it because it's hard. I mean, everybody's got so much on their minds, they're busy. They can't afford to be devoting too much brain space to remembering passwords. So, and what happens, it tends to happen, is those other websites get cracked, or their password gets exposed, or at home they give away their password to a credential harvesting system. and then it affects the business, right? So, and then on top of that, my other little gripe is the little black books, right, that you find in the top drawer of the office manager's desk, right? If I want to hack into a company system, I could just distract the receptionist long enough to pop around, open up that top drawer, grab that book, walk out the door, and I would have so much information that I'd be able to take down most networks. It's a real simple way of doing it, right? Or if the company requires the staff members to have really long, complex passwords, then the next thing you see is those yellow post-it notes appearing on everybody's screens, right? Because that's what they'll do. That's just as bad. Another scenario is what happens when somebody leaves your organization. Everybody's doing everything on the web these days, right? Whether it's a marketing page or access into an association's website. These passwords that people get access to, whether it's a shared resource that multiple people in the business need to have access to, or just simply another login that they need to do their daily job. When that person leaves the organization, it's quite common for people to forget to close that off. They'll remember eventually to tell IT that so-and-so's left, we've got somebody else starting taking your job, transfer her staff. But the IT company generally doesn't know what all these other websites that people use are. So that's why, right, we decided, I decided because I'm the boss, and I said, look, we need to find a solution for our clients to be able to stop this off, right? And we need to operate from a company level so that if somebody leaves the organization, there is some method of seeing what the status of the passwords is across the organization, right? Which is why we settled on Passportal. It is actually a tool that we're using in-house. We use in a bit more advanced manner. In fact, if Mina was to leave the company, right, one of the risks that our clients have is that he remembers all the passwords to, or at least enough of the passwords to our client sites to be dangerous. But using this tool, we can integrate it into our client servers and then remotely change all of our passwords en masse, which is something you should feel good that we're thinking about that with regards to our client security. But also, it's a productivity tool, right? If you're having to refer to a little black book in order to log into a website every time you need to access it, that's going to be taking you time, all right? If you could just got a tool that you can go click, click, and it logs you in, boom, you don't even have to type it in. It can save you a bunch of time. The way I've priced this out for our clients, and some of you may already know, is essentially, if I can save you 10 minutes across the course of a month as a productivity tool, then it's paid for itself. And then there's all the security aspects that take care of that as well. I think I've rambled on enough now. Mina, I'll mute myself and I'll allow you to take over and carry on.
Cheers, Daniel, appreciate it. Right, welcome everybody. This is the Passportal administrative training. And we're going to start by a quick presentation, and then we're going to dive into a live demo of what needs to be done. So as a starter, we get the question oftenly from our clients is, why Passportal? So the general question being, my browser saves all my passwords for me already, so why should I buy another tool? The reason we sell Passportal and we urge everyone to start using it is because our tool is not just a browser. It's actually a website hosted in Australia, and it's secure. So your passwords are all secure. It comes also as an add-on based on your browser. So you can have it always on your browser. And also it comes as a phone application. So you can download it on App Store and Android Play Store. One of the other reasons why is it better than a browser, because if a browser crashes and you don't have a backup of your passwords are gone. So you don't have access to them anymore. However, with Passportal, you always have access to them one way or another. The other question we usually get is, my business isn't huge and in need of an enterprise level tool. And to that we say, it's always the earlier the better. We expect you to have the attitude to always keep growing and expanding your business, and to implement such a tool at a really early stage will save you enough time going forward so that each and every new employee will spend less and less time to just get trained, and that becomes a standard operation in the company. So where do we start with Passportal? We always start with a Passportal invitation. So after you sign up with Vertech, we create your account and we send you the invitation. So you receive it in an email with a massive button called Activate Your Account. And you're going to find our name, whoever creates it, listed in there, so you can verify the authenticity of this email by the Vertech logo and our name and being invited to Passportal. After you click to activate your account, you're going to get taken to a page to activate your account, in which you need to set up a password for yourself, and it needs to be strong, a minimum length of 10 characters. Add your phone number, which will help in further implementations of Passportal logins, and then set up some security questions and answers. That's also to verify that you're the owner of the account in case it's needed. And then you enter your organization key. So the organization key, to make it short, it's a phrase that we create as Vertech for your company, and we send it to you as soon as we invite you as well in order to use it. It just adds another layer of security when you log in, but it's important. All right, so now we're going to go to the live demo. So allow me to share my screen. All right. So we start here by, this is the login page for Passportal. We share the link with you as well, so you can keep it on your bookmarks. It always starts with Vertech, because we provide you with a tool, and then because our website is hosted in Australia, so it has to be .com.au. So these are the quick two things to look for. So we start by putting in the details. So the email is your email that you get invited by. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to use it. Right, so the landing page for Passportal, we come to a section called the Company Vault. This is where we keep track of all the company passwords. And the reason we do that is because every single user assigned access to Passportal gets the option to segregate their personal password and their company level password. To further illustrate that, so when we click on My Vault, this is personal passwords, as for example, my social networking passwords, where I keep my Facebook login, my LinkedIn login, my Twitter login. And for example, if I do some online shopping, I can keep some of them like in a folder, countdown, login, and pack and save. So these are the type of accounts I don't want anyone else in the company to have access to. So I keep them stored into My Vault. On the opposite, if there's any password within the company, so we have a sales team, an operations team, marketing team, management team, and so on, they can keep their respective passwords inside here. So it's a simple process to create a password. All you need to do is just click on a new password, and it takes you to this page here where you just select the folder if you want to put it inside of a folder. So at the moment, let's say I want to create a credential that I want to save for my online shopping. I'm going to put in a username, so test@vertech.co.nz. And then in here, I'll fill in the password that I usually use. So if I already have the account set up, I'm just going to fill in the password that I've used already. If I'm setting up the account, or if I'm signing up to a website for the first time and I want to create a new password, instead of having to think about a hard password, all I need to do is just click on the generate button, and it creates a password for me with a good strength indicated by this bar. And when I click on the I, it shows me the password, so I can just take a copy of it and paste it on the website and continue my sign up. And then I'm just going to put in a description, which gives the name for the password, saying this, let's say this is New World Login. Then we come into Credential Type, which is a classification method. At the moment, there are about 40 credentials types pre-input by Vertech to cover most businesses. And you as site administrators, you get the option to add more depending on your business. So for example, we know that this is a website, and then we come into the URL. So within the manual process, we need to actually include the full URL, which is for example, newworld.co.nz. And then we get the last two things, which is the rotation policy and the notes. So the rotation policy is basically a policy that we can enforce on an organization level, that it says every set number of days, you need to change this password. It gets quite useful with important passwords for the company. Not as important for personal passwords, however, we still recommend to use it, but it's more important for the company passwords. And then for notes, we can type any sort of note that we need about this password that helps us maybe remember it if you want to, or to describe something. So for example, most common things that people confuse in passwords is that the letter O and the number 0, they look alike and people get confused. Also, uppercase I and L, people get confused with that. So you can just type in a quick note saying, in the password, it's a 0, not an O, for example, and you just click create. And it creates it right here under online shopping. You also have the ability to create folders, so you can further structurize your passwords. So here we have 2 folders created: online shopping and social networking websites. For example, let's say we want a vacation folder. So that includes websites like Airbnb, bookings.com, Emirates, any sort of these credentials, they can go in here. The classification is all up to you. So this is sort of the manual process, and we're going to cover later how to automate this. It's exactly the same process we can do in the company vault. So we click on the company vault, and we can see that we can create as many folders as we like by clicking new folder, giving it a name. So we can say HR, for example, and we just click save, and it creates an HR folder and takes us right into it so that we can just keep creating passwords, so on. So the same fields, same concepts. Next we do as a site administrator is that we can manage users. So this is how we can invite users. So we can add them manually, where we're going to type, let's say, test1 and test1, and then test1 and Vertech. We don't need to put in a phone number. We can select the user permission level. So for example, we want them to be a site user, and we can view the permissions that they have on the spot while we select it. And then we can choose either to assign it to security group or not. And we would recommend to not at the start and assign people to security groups later on from another tab, which gives you a better overview over the security groups. And we just click create. And what that does is it creates a user and sends out an invitation email to this email address, and it shows up here as pending setup. So that gives us an idea that whether this person has set up his own account and started using Passportal or not. And in any case, if someone leaves, we can click on action and just click disable user, and that will mark them to be disabled. And then if they had access to any passwords, this workflow will show up, and it'll say that this person had access to these passwords, and they're all flagged up to be changed at the moment because this user was just recently created. So we're not going to have any known passwords. So we just click OK, and we get back to our company vault again. So we can also import users en masse, so we don't have to create each and every one separately as an onboarding process. And also we can delete en masse. So let's say we had 3 leavers, if they were listed here, we'll just simply check the marks and we have with selected, and we can just disable user. Or we can change the permission level en masse as well. Next thing we dive into is the permission levels. Here where we customize what sort of access different people has in the company. So there's 3 input permission levels that cannot be altered, which is the site administrator, site user, and site user limited. At the moment, we're all talking about being site administrator, but our users will be all listed as either site user or site user limited, or any other permission that we create specifically to cater for their usage of Passportal. And if at any point we wanted to view what sort of permissions we can, we have under each permission level, we just click on the action and view permission level, and it shows us an overview of the assigned permissions right here. So we can create as many as we want by just clicking new permission level. We'd give it a name. For example, we're going to create a permission level for operations, and then we're going to click assign, and then we can select from the pool of permissions. So for example, we want our operations team to be able to add and edit folders, import the data, add passwords, archive them, clear the flags, edit their passwords, and view them as well. And we might need them to have access to the plugin and perhaps Vault access, so company Vault, and maybe run one of the reports. For example, we want them to be able to run a report by password complexity. And then we just click on the single arrow, it puts it in the assigned. And if I just move that up here, then we have the assign button. Then it gives us a final overview of the permissions assigned, and we just click save. So it creates operations. And at any point, if it's no longer being used as a permission level, we can always click the action button and then delete permission levels. The next thing we do from access control is security groups. Here is where we control who sees what and how. So it's as simple as the setup, for example, in a company with an Active Directory server, they set up security groups to have access to specific folders. It's the same scenario here. So we have a development team, a factory team, management team, marketing team, operations team, and a sales team. And we can create all new security groups by just creating a new security group, giving it a name. So for example, we're going to create an HR, and then we're going to click on assigned users and click edit, and it gives us a list of users. It's better, so the reason we say it's better to do it from here is that we can have a list of all users at once instead of trying to think while we're adding the user, which security group should they be part of. So at the moment, we only have one user, which is the demo user that I'm using. And we can just click on it and put it under assigned column and just click assign and then click save. So after we've set up the security groups and the teams that they include, what we can do is we can go to the company vault and then go under the HR folder, right click and edit the folder and say, I want only the HR group to be able to have access to that folder. So I'm assigning a security group to that folder, and I'm just clicking assign. So I can see it's only assigned group as HR. I just click save. And at the moment, there's no data in HR, but we can do the same for development, for example. So we click edit and just assign development. So what that means is that any person in the development team, if they're not assigned access to the HR folder, they won't be able to access it. And when they click on it, it'll show up as no data available in the table. Next thing we do as administrators is that we can run reports. And running reports helps with gathering information quickly and easily. So for example, we can run 3 types of reports: general reports, user reports, and password reports. So to start with, the password complexity is a report that shows you how complex your passwords are. So you can run it over the whole organization by just clicking on it. And then you can select, I want my company, which is called Passportal Demo. And then I want to see how many passwords that I have that are weak. And I'm just going to run the report. And if there's any password that is weak, it shows up in here and shows up as weak. Then if we click back on report, it shows you that you've ran this report. It was generated on screen and the date and the time. And you can export that as a PDF, a CSV file, or an Excel if you want to distribute it further. Second report under general reports is the Passportal logins. from a managerial perspective, we can run this to be able to see how many persons within our organization have logged into Passportal and within a selected date range. So we can select within a month how many people have logged in and used the tool. The Company Audit Log is a comprehensive log report that shows a full audit log of all password creations, edits, views, and archivals. So it shows all activity that is happening on an account, giving a specific period of time for a specific client. So if we run that, for example, and we select our client, which is going to be the name of the company, and then select the date range to be, I want in the last 30 days, run the report, and again, no data has been changed in the recent times, so we won't be seeing anything here, but if there was any change, we'd see it right there. Then back to the reports, we have the user report. So we can run a report for passwords known by a user. So this is to touch base back on the concept that Daniel covered. When a user leaves, we can quickly, before disabling their account, we can just run this password. Then we can select this user, which is Passportal demo, for example, and just click run report. It will show all the passwords that we have access to. And even if the user is disabled, you can see that their name is listed right there as well. So you can run it on their user, whether it's disabled or active, and it shows how many passwords they had access to so that you can quickly reference them and change them. Password input by user is also another report to view how many passwords has been input by selected user. It won't reflect a direct usage log of that user because they might be inputting a large sum of passwords at a certain point and then later on they don't. But it's good to know how many passwords have been contributed by a single person to see like if they're reaching out for new tools, always creating new plugins that we can use as a company. And then the most extensive type of report is the password audit by user, and it shows a full audit log of all logons, password access, creations, change password, etc. within a given period of time for a specific user. Last but not least is the password reports. And then what we do is that we can run a report on the unchanged passwords. What that does is it shows us how many passwords hasn't been changed since a specific date. So for example, if you want to run a report on our company to see how many password hasn't changed since today, and we run the report, and again, it'll show no data available because we don't have much passwords input, but usually it will show how many passwords hasn't changed since a specific date. And that gives an indication about how secure they are. And then lastly is the change password report, so that we can view how many passwords have been changed within a specific period. That helps us that if we're suspecting that, for example, the company LinkedIn profile password has changed, we can just run a quick change password report and see if the LinkedIn password was one of the passwords changed by user or not, and that'll give us an idea. Next, we look into under settings, the first of all being credential types. And again, this is for classification purposes. So these are 40 pre-input credential types by Vertech to cover most businesses. But as a site administrator, you're always able to create new credential type. So for example, this is a CRM tool login, or a, or for example, a laser machine login. Any type of credential that you want to create, you can create, or you can delete as well by just finding the one you created, click actions and just disable credential. And it just disables, and it tells you, because if you assign the credential type to current credentials or current passwords, it'll ask you what type of credential you want to change them later on. So you select it to no credential type, or for example, you switch them to a website and just click save. What that does is it goes through all the credentials that have that had CRM tool attached to them, and it just changes them to a website login. And then you can export those as a PDF, CSV, and Excel again. Next, we offer downloads. So Passportal is not only a website, It's also an extension to all the known browsers. So if you're using Chrome, Firefox, or Edge, you can download them from here. And also, you can download the import templates that you use to facilitate your migration process. And again, some general settings where you can hide unassigned folders from users. So we turn this on more of a courtesy option, where if we're not going to assign someone permission to view a specific folder, we won't let them know that this folder exists in the first place. And all of that happens by toggling this on. Show only custom credential types. This can hide all the credential types that are created by Vertech and only leave the ones that you create for your company. And then you can just click save. And then within the same settings, you can just click on show organization key, which puts a prompt on your browser that gives you the organization key right here. So for example, for this company, the organization key is it's for testing. And then later on, you can just copy it and paste it in an email, forward it to your employees when they sign up. And then we can turn on two-factor authentication, which is another layer of security on the login while we do that. So you can enable it by here, and then you can select a default two-factor authentication method. So for example, you can select it by email, text message, if all of your clients have their phone number imported across their accounts, or you can use a phone call, Google Authenticator, Dual Authenticator. And then you can select allow users to change their 2FA method. So some people would prefer email, some people would prefer text message, or some people would prefer like an application. Then force all users on 2FA. Then you can select that the 2FA passcode times out every 2 minutes or up to 60 minutes if you'd like. So far, what we recommend is you'd get familiar with Passportal first, and within 2 weeks to 3 weeks, we turn on enable two-factor authentication as a secondary stage of implementation. And then we can talk into importing and exporting. So as an administrator, you can import directly to the company vault or your vault using this section here, or import into your personal vault using import my vault passwords here. And then you need to download the templates. So we're just going to click on the import templates, and then we're just going to open them. So if you see here, the import templates, we can import users and we can import passwords. So just edit both at the same time. So to import a user, all we need to do is leave the Passportal ID blank, because that's a unique identifier that Passportal inputs for you. The client name is always the name of your company. So Passportal demo. And then you can just start filling in the user's information. So the last name, one, and first name test, their email test1@vertech.co.nz, and you can input the phone number. So +64 092834507. And then you can just fill in the whole list and just save that as a CSV. And then you can just go back here, click select a file, browse to the folder where you've saved, and then this is a user import. We just click open. So it shows us that it's going to import one user with the last name of one, first name test, and this email, this phone number under the client name called Passportal demo. If we click import, it's either going to say import failed or successful, but we've already used this email, so it says import failed, email already in use. So we can just change that. and save it. Select the same folder again. And now the email has changed. We click import. And it says import successful. So we can go back to user management and we can find the user right here. Similarly to passwords. So if you minimize that, again, we can create the passwords straight away. So what we can do is we leave the Passportal ID blank, and then under credential, this is the credential type. So you can type in any credential type you'd like. So this is a website, for example, or if it's a CRM tool, or if it's, for example, a gate security, and you can start typing in the usernames. So just one. And the passwords corresponding. So password 1, password 2, and password 3. And of course, these passwords are not secure because we're just using the word password, but usually what you do is you copy and paste from the export of your current password management tool, and you just paste them here. And later on, you can go through changing them. You give them a description saying, for example, this is the, let's say, this is the company webpage login, company CRM, and front gate security. So the expires column, this is relating to the rotation policy. And again, if you don't want to enable it, you can leave it blank. It defaults to no, or if you want to enable it to a password, you just type in yes, and you can just drag it across. And if you want to type any notes, you can type it straight here. So for example, this is not a strong password. And then you can just type in the URL. And again, you don't have to type this manually, because what you'll be doing is that you'll be copying across from your own password management, and they'll export into an Excel file, and you'll just copy and paste according to the column header. And then, for example, HTTPS, let's say that's the website. And then this is where it gets easy in creating folders. So what we can do here is that if you want to structurize your folders straight away when you're importing, you can do that from here. So let's say if you write in a CRM, company webpage. So if you write that as a folder name, when we're importing this, what will Passportal do is that it'll look for the folders already there. It'll look for company webpage. If it finds it, it'll put this credential under it. If it didn't find it, it'll create one and put it under it. And if we leave it blank, it puts it at the top level of the passwords. And then all we can do is just save it. Then get back here to Passportal and then go settings, import, export. We select the file, and then this is the password. We click import. So again, it gives us a quick overview of the password so we can revise what we're importing. Just click import. It says import successful. So going to the company vault, I can see 2 passwords has been created with some credential types that I've already pre-configured. And then I can see the folder called company webpage created, and inside of it, there was the password that I set it to be there. And if I wanted to import to my personal vault, so let's say we're just gonna remove all of that, so clear content. And I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna give it a credential type, I'm gonna say, for example, Nina, and this is my Facebook login. For example, personal Facebook. I don't want this to expire. This is the password, and I don't want it to be in a folder. And I'm just going to save it in a different file. So file, save as I'm just going to save it on my desktop as my personal password. And then I can just go back here to settings, import, export, import my Vault password, select the file, go to my desktop, find my CSV, open it. Again, I get a quick overview of what I'm importing, and I just click import. It tells me import successful. If I go under my Vault, I see my personal Facebook credential being imported. If I leave the credential type blank, it just puts in imported password. Now we look into how do we really use Passportal. So looking at my browser here, after we add into Chrome, it appears here as an extension. So what we do is we click on it, and then I'm going to log in using my actual Vertech account. So then, because we have two-factor authentication enabled, so it asks me for it. So I'm just going to quickly authenticate it. We can see that I already have multiple passwords under my Vault. And under all websites, it shows every single password that I have, either company or personal. So for example, let's say I want to go to my ASB credential. So this isn't a personal one. I can just find the credential, click launch. It goes to the associated website, and it shows the Passportal logo right next to it and then it pre-fills my credentials, and I can just click login. It takes me to login. And of course, this is not the correct credential. This is just for demo purposes, but basically it works for all other passwords. And also, while being on the website, so for example, if I click in and I go to a tool of ours, let's say Sophos, Passportal will automatically detect that for this website, I have a credential, and it says current website, Sophos, and it shows me my password that I have already. So I can just use it. Even before I get to the login page, it tells me that I've detected that you have this password. And also from the add-on, if we're signing up for something, so let's say I'm signing up for Facebook for the first time, or let's say twitter.com. So I'm assuming I'm signing up. I'll fill in my name, Maina, my phone number, which is 07. Or we can just use email instead. So I'm just going to type in fill in a month, a day, and a year, for example, 96. And then we hit next. And then it'll ask me to create my account. So sign up. So let's say, because the way that Twitter uses to sign up is that it sends you an invitation email and then you create your password. But let's say you want to create your password right here, if that was the field, and you want to create a password by Passportal. What you can do is you can click on the plus sign and add the credentials straight away. So for example, the username for this would be passportaldemo@vertech.co.nz. And instead of you having to worry about creating a password, you can just click the generate, and it generates a password, and you can just click on the eye to view the password, highlight it, take a copy of it, paste it here, for example. So we're just going to do that again. So it's the same password. And then Passportal picks up an automatic description saying Twitter, for example. I want this to be a website. I want it to be imported to my Vault. Or if it's a company Vault, you can select the company Vault that you want. And these are all of just our companies that we have at the moment. Then if you want to select it to go under a folder, so I want this, for example, to go under my firewalls folder, for example, or no folder, and it automatically picks up the URL, so you don't have to worry about inputting it yourself, and you can just type in a quick note, this is a demo password. And you click save, and then Passportal will always remember this password for the website next time. So this is the overall wrap up of Passportal. I'll hand it back to Bianca for any questions.
Hello, hello. Okay. Yes, we have questions in my back. There we go.
Yep.
Yes, Mina, I have 2 questions. First one, is the app useful for phones as well?
Yes, you can use it for your phone to store the passwords on it. So you can access it from your phone. Let's say you're in a situation where you're using someone else's computer and you want to like find a password that you use straight away for a website, and you don't want to put up the website on your, you don't want to log into Passportal on your friend's laptop, for example. So you just use your phone, browse through your password, find it, take a copy of it, and just type it in straight away to log into the tool.
Okay, perfect. And then there's another question. So Passportal will allow us to send sensitive information and documentation outside of our organization, and it will be password protected?
I'll take that one. So not quite, but I had another question which related to contractors. Potentially what you could do is that rather than giving, say, you could have an external party, like from somebody else's email address could be added into Passportal, but under your company account. So you could allocate them like say, project contractor group, right? And you're going to allocate certain resources that they need to have access to, whether it's the building front door key code, the password, the alarm code, and other information such as the login to the HR website or something like that, where they have to register their documentation or something like that. So, and then you can allocate that to them, and at the end of the project, you've got an easy way where you can just turn off their visibility to those passwords. And you also are aware of exactly what things they had access to, which is a common problem we have. For example, I was dealing with a law firm a couple of months back, and they had, well, they were prosecuting a ex-employee who had, although they'd left the company a couple of months earlier, they found out through their clients that that ex-employee had been contacting all of them. And they're like, how does she know about the status of all of these people's cases? Well, there was a third-party site that that person still had access to that they completely just forgotten, right? And that person had gone in and downloaded the case information for all of those clients from that third-party website, which was not their Office 365 environment. You know, so if they had a tool like this, and they could have easily seen what that person had access to and be able to take the necessary steps to gain access to it. Now, I'll lead straight into the question that I had there was, I'm a contractor, I'm working at multiple different companies. I'll definitely be saving passwords, and I've already got a password manager. Now, from a business owner's perspective, we've got a policy for Vertech in that no client information should be stored outside of our systems, right? Our clients' information security is of supreme importance to us, and we can't afford for it to be in an uncontrolled space. So everything we do is two-factor authentication, and that's where we're pushing our clients to too, in order to just secure them. I would be looking at, like I mentioned for that contractor example, is that you can grant that access to people outside of your organisation and give them, you may have already given them an email address and password, and you have access to the tools that they need, the logins they need in that account. They shouldn't be using their own password management tool, because that's now in control. That's your information which is stored elsewhere. And also, it doesn't give you that level of visibility to be able to make those changes after they leave. So one, you have a tool, and two, at the governance level, you need to have a policy that dictates what are the expectations of the business with respect to certain activities.
Perfect. I think that pretty much answers it. Okay, well, we have no other questions, so I think we can...
Oh, there was one other thing.
Okay.
Sorry, Mina didn't cover it as a presentation, but quite often if you log into a website that you haven't got a password saved on it already, Passportal in the Chrome login will prompt you, okay, did you want to save this password? You go, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, because you might remember a whole bunch that you've got, and then yeah, so that's helpful for me all the time. Sorry, Bianca, go ahead.
I think that's helpful for everyone. Okay, well, I think that's it now. Any last takers? Okay. Perfect. Then that is a wrap for today for this training session. Our next topic we will be covering is the Not Just for a Chit Chat Microsoft Teams on the 25th of September at 12:30 as well. And that one will hopefully be a lunch and learn and some networking, yeah, dependent on what's happening with our lockdown levels. But yeah, thank you to everyone for joining us and for watching and training with us. Thanks. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. All right, have a great day.